Hey guys, and welcome to the Money Talks News Podcast. This episode, we're talking about setting goals and actually accomplishing them. We've all heard the dismal statistics. Most people who set New Year's resolutions abandon them by February. What gives? Why is it so hard for us to follow through on our goals? And most important, what can we do to succeed this time? Let's find out. I'm Stacy Johnson. As usual, my co-host is financial journalist Miranda Marquit. Hello, Miranda.
Hello, Stacy. Let's start this new year off kind of right. Let's do this.
I am so anxious. I love this topic. Listening in, sometimes contributing, is our producer, Aaron Freeman. Hey, Aaron.
I was just going to say that goals. If you're a subscriber to this show, Stacy talks about them all the time.
Well, I think they're really important. And that's what we brought on a special guest this week. It's Dr. Brad Klontz, psychologist, professor, and managing principal of Your Mental Wealth. Hello, Brad. Welcome.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We are delighted to have you. He's going to help us understand why we sometimes get in our own way when it comes to money and how to build financial health. Before we start the show, remember, this is not intended as financial advice. Before you make any money moves, you always do your own research. You consult your own experts. Okay, let's dive in. In the first part of our show today, we're going to talk about why we so often fail to achieve our financial goals. In the second part, we're going to talk about specific steps you can take to make your dreams your reality. So I made some bold promises there for you, Brad. I hope you're going to be able to deliver on them.
I'm a little nervous. Do my best.
Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
So I am a strange bird. I'm a clinical psychologist who got really interested in the psychology of money after I got out of graduate school owing $100,000 in student loan debt. And sort of desperate to get out of it, I took up some day trading. I saw a friend of mine make $100,000 day trading in a year. I thought, what a brilliant strategy for me to get out of debt.
I know how this is going to end.
Well, I always like to say I had a few good months, Stacy. And then the tech bubble burst, and I was left there with these terrible decisions and the consequences, and wondering, the question I had for myself is, why would a reasonably intelligent person do something so stupid with his money? And that is what led me on my career over the last 20 years, trying to figure that out.
So you're both a psychologist and a money manager.
That's right. Yeah, I started as a clinical psychologist and doing lots of consulting in the field over about 10 years. And then I went ahead and got my CFP and moved into that part of the industry.
Now, it's funny because I was going to say that's a really unusual combo. And it is in my experience, but it really shouldn't be, because a lot of how we end up financially is because of our mental state, isn't it?
It's totally true. And actually, I am a CFP, Certified Financial Planner Practitioner, and the board just came out and is requiring 7% of the exam to now be psychology of financial planning. We recognize it as a profession that it's one of the biggest factors in whether we succeed or not is what is our mindset around money.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk to you about that too. I was checking you out a little bit before you came on the show today. I noticed something on your website called money scripts. What is a money script?
Yeah, money script is the word we use to describe your beliefs around money. And we use the word script because quite often our beliefs around money were passed down to us from our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents. And it's a script for many of us that's unconscious, and we just sort of play it out. And that's one of the things that I've done a lot of research on, are your beliefs around money predict your income, your net worth, your credit card debt, the socioeconomic status you grew up in, all sorts of things. And so that's been a big part of my journey as an individual, and me helping other people, is trying to really uncover what are these beliefs that we have around money that for many of us are unconscious, that we've inherited, that are playing out in our lives around money.
You know, Brad, I wrote a book 20 years ago called Life or Debt. And in that book, I recounted how my parents, who grew up in the Depression, thought about money and how it translated to me. And one of, there are several, okay, like, for example, a biblical term, it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to gain entrance to the kingdom of God. And so we get messages like this. And the message, my dad grew up dirt poor, and the message he gave me was, if you've got a lot of money, you cheated to get it. Either you inherited or you did something shifty. He was always mad at the government type person. These board people on the county board, they know when a freeway is going to come in and they buy the land up. So everybody who was rich was suspect, and that's kind of what I brought into my life. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about when you say money script?
Yeah, psychologists were very well known for making discoveries that people already knew, and so to your point, we would call that money avoidance in our research. It's beliefs like rich people are greedy, money corrupts, There's virtue in having less money. That's one of the 4 main categories we found. And it's really common belief within lower socioeconomic groups. I grew up lower income. It's like I didn't know any rich people. It actually made me feel better about not having money to sort of pin that negative view of them on them. And of course, there's always examples of rich people doing terrible things. I mean, you don't have to look very far, but that's only part of the story. So we're looking to get more of a balanced view. And it's true that some rich people are greedy, nasty individuals, and some do great things in the world. And I always encourage my followers and people read my books to become one of those really good rich people who do great things in the world.
So, okay, let's get back to some brass tacks here. Miranda and Aaron have totally failed at doing their financial goals. They don't set them. They don't accomplish them. They're just a mess. Why is that, Brad? Why can't these two get their acts together?
It's human nature. I do not blame either one of them.
I'm blaming them, but I'm blaming them right now. It's their fault.
Yes. I'm going to let them off the hook a little bit. We're just wired to not do that. I mean, this is the way human beings are wired. And a lot of our financial behaviors make sense if you look at it through the context of our prehistoric ancestors running around in a group of 100 to 150 people. The whole concept of saving goes against our biology. Like, we really couldn't save a whole lot. Like, for example, food. It would spoil. So you eat as much as you possibly can. You know, the more fat, the more sugar, the better. And I think we're wired to not do that around saving too. We're wired to be present focused, worried about today, not worrying about the future. And so I think it's actually abnormal to be really great at setting and achieving financial goals.
Did you hear that, you guys? You're not abnormal.
I was just picturing every one of his clients coming in and getting a financial advice, but they have to do it laying on a couch.
That sounds awesome to me, as a matter of fact.
I mean, that
we
actually
should do
sounds
this podcast
great.
laying on a couch.
I've got one right here. I've got one right back here. No, but I really like that because I think a lot of the time we beat ourselves up, right? And Aaron and I were talking about how, well, I don't know Aaron specifically, but I was talking about how I don't actually set specific New Year's resolutions. I have plans for my money. I have the spending plan. I have the plans for my money. I have the things that I want my money to accomplish for me. And that's kind of how I look at it. But I don't set specific New Year's resolutions because to me it just feels very arbitrary, and you feel the sense of failure when you're done and when you can't accomplish this lofty goal. And so I find being able to say, okay, let's dial it back. Let's have some aims and some goals and some good solid like ideas to move forward, but do it with the idea that, okay, if I fall behind, if something weird happens, I can start again tomorrow and not be a total failure.
I've been doing this for decades, Brad, and I keep coming back to the same thing. I don't have your background, obviously, but I've thought about, because I used to be an investment advisor, and I guess to some extent still am. But I'm always trying to motivate people to do the right thing. We're trying to motivate ourselves to do the right thing. But why is it? It makes no sense to me that you'll go, here's what I want. I want to save up a down payment for a house or whatever it is, whatever goal. And then you don't do it. If it's important to you, why aren't we doing the things we want to do? What's keeping us from it? I don't understand it.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a fascinating question. And we've done some studies to try to get people to save more money. So I can share with you some of the things that we've done. And we put people in a room and we increased their savings rates by 73% after 1 hour by doing what I'm about to share with you. We're not wired to think about the future. And one of the big problems with, New Year's resolutions, and if you've ever joined a gym, what they get you on is the automatic drip, right? So it's automation. They're going to go take that money out of your account every single month. Automation is such an incredibly powerful force that you can be used for good in your financial life. So what I encourage people to do, get really excited about their financial goals. And what we had people do in the study is we had them create vision boards. It sounds a little kooky, but people got really excited about it. You can picture exactly what it is you want. You have to do this because most of our decisions are made by our emotional brain. And our emotional brain is focused on the present moment. This is how we've survived as a species. And you need to get future oriented. And the only way to do that is to get really excited about that future. So the clearer you can make it, not just a house, what kind of house, how many rooms, what square footage, what part of town, paint a picture of it, get really excited about it. And then you have to take the second step, which is harnessing the status quo bias, which is what, the people at the gym use to keep you paying. and to set up an automatic movement of money from your checking or from your paycheck, whatever it is, to those particular goals, naming accounts ideally, name them after the goal so you can feel it. And then you're very likely to just keep it going the way you do your gym membership, because you have to override, you basically have to convince yourself that you no longer want to send your child to college, or that you no longer want that house, or that you no longer want financial freedom to go unwind it. So that's what we found to be the key in our studies.
Now, when you say create a vision board, do you mean literally?
We literally had people come in the room, and we had poster board, and we had magazines, and we had scissors, and we had markers. We literally had them create a visual image. We wanted them to make it really powerful for them.
Now, I have a question. I keep Yachting magazine in my bathroom. Is that sufficient?
It could be. It could be.
But no, this is something obviously that we've all, and again though, I can remember when you said that about the vision board, Brad, when I was a stockbroker, I'm talking 1980, 85, I had a picture of a yacht on my computer screen. And after a while, I just stopped seeing it though. And it didn't, I guess maybe I wasn't being detailed enough in what I wanted to create, but I wasn't visualizing exactly what I wanted. Just having a picture didn't do the job for me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And that's why you got to get the picture. You got to get emotionally excited. You need to overcome this whole status quo bias. I don't want to take action. It's a pain in the neck. And then you need to set up an account and then automatically start moving money over. So you don't have to make this decision every month. That's where we fall flat when it comes to our goals.
But what if
you have to?
What if your vision board is full of depreciating assets, and then all of a sudden it gets you too excited, and you're like, I want them now. I don't want them in 10 years, and it just ramps you up to spending too quickly, and then you're just massive debt because your vision board's full of these things.
Well, yeah, don't do it that way, Aaron.
Yeah.
I thought the year was going to be more complicated than that.
Yeah, right. No, don't do that.
Right. No. So one of the things I like to do is it's kind of similar to the vision board, really, is I have what I call my life map. And I have a little map, it's like kind of this little thing. It looks, I don't know, maybe I have it here. Oh, I do have it here. For people on video, they can kind of look at it.
Ooh,
but I have
wow.
Ooh, I like it.
That's
yeah,
intense.
but in the middle, it says living with passion and purpose, because that's like how I want to do. And I had the things around it that say like what I like to do, like, my business, my personal development, how to make a positive difference, and travel.
And you look at this, this wasn't on your desk because of this podcast. You actually have this all the time.
Yeah,
with you?
yes. Yeah, I have this to like show me like the
That's
things
really
that
cool.
I do. And
it looks really confusing. You look kind of manic.
It does a little bit. It works. I have ADHD, you guys. This is what works for me.
That's her 120th version of it.
I have an actual diagnosis, and this is what works for me. But no, like it's nice because like I have these boxes that and some of them overlap, and so that's where the arrows come in to where they overlap. But it helps me look at this and say, okay, if I'm going to spend money, if I'm going to do things, is my money working for me and working for helping me? Like, is it the tool that I need to like accomplish these things that help me live with passion and purpose?
It's very cool. So
That's awesome.
we're almost to the midpoint of our show, Brad. But I said at the beginning, the first part, we're going to talk about why we fail to achieve our financial goals. So if I asked you to summarize why we fail to achieve things that we ourselves are stating are important, and you had to condense that to a sentence or two, what would you say?
I would say that we are wired to not do it. I mean, it is our basic biological wiring. It's our social wiring. For example, saving in and of itself goes against, what we're supposed to be doing in a tribe. You're supposed to be sharing everything. The whole idea of not giving in to, trying to have outward displays of status. Like we always like to tell people, oh, you shouldn't care about what people think. Well, that's impossible. That's absolutely impossible. Yeah. You are going to care about what people think. And social media just inundates us with all these, it's false. It's a false narrative too. Like this isn't actually how most self-made millionaires spend their money. But we see all these trappings and luxury watches and sports cars and all this sort of thing. And it makes us feel deprived. In psychology, we call it relative deprivation. You basically judge whether or not you're doing okay based on what you see around you. It's not objective. It's very subjective. And so we're constantly feeling like, we don't have enough stuff right now because it seems like everybody else has way more than we do. which feels like an existential threat. And then we tend to not set those long-term goals and stick to them.
So actually, essentially what I'm hearing you say is, this isn't my fault. It is, however, Miranda and Aaron's fault that they can't accomplish their financial goals. That's what I got out of the first part of our show.
Money Scripts lets us, blame our parents and grandparents.
I'm doing
we can blame
just
them
fine,
too.
thanks.
Well, it also allows us to blame our podcast co-host as well. Okay, guys, we are halfway. Now, when we get back, we're going to talk about specific things that we can do. And I'm talking about a list of things you're going to give us, Brad, right? So we can start turning things around today.
And
right?
start shifting the blame back to wealthy people.
That's right.
I don't know. Wealthy people, I think they're okay. Anyway, we are halfway through our show. So I've got a quick question for you guys. Looking for a way to supercharge your savings without putting your money in the stock or crypto markets? Well, Tellus, that's TELLUS, is a mobile app that turns your savings into passive income powered by residential real estate. Earn up to 22 times more than a traditional savings account and withdraw your money at any time. Visit moneytalksnews.com/tellus, that's TELLUS, to learn more and sign up. Use the code MONEYTALK, and you can get a 6% APY for 7 days with a $125 minimum deposit. Not million deposit. Okay, now we are back. It is now time to dig into the nitty-gritty of how we're going to set our financial goals. Oh, but wait, I did have one more message. If you like what we're doing here, folks, do us a favor right this second and share this show with your friends, family, and, of course, subscribe to it. It really helps us. Okay, now, back to the nitty-gritty. Brad, make me an accomplisher of goals step by step.
Okay, well, first of all, I just want to say, don't do a budget. I mean, whatever you do, don't do a budget.
Well, now that I did not expect to hear.
Yeah, I did not.
Yeah. Well, it's just a terrible emotional experience. It's actually a horrific. If you really want to have a terrible time with your partner or your spouse, just go ahead and sit down across the table and start pointing at each other's expenditures and telling each other which ones they need to cut out. What a way to start the new year.
I've tried that. It did not work.
Didn't go so well.
Did not go well.
It's kind of like the whole idea of diet. And what happens psychologically is when you tell your body you are going to starve it, it immediately starts to work against you. Your metabolism slows down. It starts to scan the environment for the fattiest, saltiest, most sugary foods. And the same thing kind of happens with a budget. You're coming from a sense of deprivation, and it's just a terrible experience. Unless you're an engineer. Engineers love them. But most of us don't. And so setting goals like that are just going to backfire. I think it's much more exciting to create a spending plan. Oh, how are you going to spend your money? What do you care about? What are you most passionate about? And so I usually encourage people to think about what are those top 3 financial goals. So first of all, you got to name them. What are they? What do you really want? And really connect these things to your values. Why do you want them? What really matters to you?
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's unusual too. One of the things I said, in fact, I think maybe in one of our last podcasts, in the book I wrote, I was saying a lot of what we do is I want a big house, I want a car, because what we're doing is reflecting what society tells us we should want. But what actually you might want is a little sailboat. I mean, you might want to do nothing. There's a million things you can want. First, you have to get in touch with what the hell that is, right?
That's right. And I'd like to passion test the goals. That would be the second thing I would suggest.
Passion test. I like that. What do you mean?
Passion test. Yeah. And to your point, I've done this many times where I sit and I visualize as if I already achieved this goal. This is actually really important. How is it going to feel? And I'll tell you, I've stopped doing a lot of things because I realized it'd be cool for a minute and then I'd be stuck with this thing I would have to take care of. It wasn't really going to give me what I thought it was going to give me. And it's a great exercise to have because, for example, one of my goals was I'm going to write, 20 books. And I was all excited about it. And then I sat and I thought about it and I'm like, why do I want to do that? What's the point of that? What a silly goal. And so I've actually kept myself from going down directions that didn't really fit with what mattered the most to me by actually picturing as if I already had it.
Very cool.
So passion testing it. And then as I talked about and at the beginning part of the segment is then get really specific and visualize what it is those things that you want. Real specific on it, like what size boat, where would you get it, what sort of cost, get really specific on it. You'll never achieve any of these things unless you get really specific, because once you are aware of what it is, then you can set in those automated processes to achieve those goals. So I'm a huge fan of visualization and the whole concept of manifestation and all that kind of thing. But without a process, you don't get any of it. Okay, so first of all, you have to have the goal. You got to be passionate about it. You got to be excited about it. Then you got to stick a process in place. And the one I like, as I mentioned, naming a goal. Like there's nothing worse than a quote savings account. If you have an amorphous savings account, it will get you nowhere. It's not attached to anything. 3 months from now, you're going to look at it. You're going to be like, oh, look, we got $2,000 in there. What do we want to buy? What do we want to spend it on today? It's a terrible strategy. You need to set, accounts that are specifically named for that goal. And then you work backwards and you start, what's the amount of money I want to set aside each month to achieve those goals? And what's so fascinating and incredible about this automation process, you've taken out all the psychological barriers and self-sabotage in achieving those goals. And then eventually you're going to be looking in your account and you're saying, whoa, look, I can't believe how much money we have already for this. It's an amazing process.
Brad, it seems like at the beginning of the year, what is very common with financial goals or otherwise, I want to have $10,000 in the bank by the end of the year. I want to pay off all my debt. I want to lose 20 pounds. But these are the types of goals that don't have the passion, right? I mean, do they?
Well, for me, the passion indicator is, has it sparked you to go do the next step, which is setting up the accounts and setting up the automatic money movement? And if you are interrupted in that process, what's happening is, to me, I'm saying you don't want it bad enough. It's not that important to you. Because the thing about the budget versus spending plan is if you identify what you most want in life around money you're super passionate about, it becomes really easy to cut the stuff that you literally just said you didn't care about as much to achieve those goals. And it goes along, Stacy, with the whole pay yourself first mentality, right? So you've set these goals. These matter the most to you. These are the most important things. So you're going to allocate money towards those automatically. Then you're going to have the rest of this money. And then that's what you're going to be working with for all the stuff that doesn't matter as much to you.
This is interesting. So to go back to the first thing you said about budgeting, we say this a lot. We talk about people going through their budget and trying to find out, what are you overspending on, whether it's like, extra, subscriptions to anything. You're saying, almost like a reverse psychology, go through and say what you want to purchase, like a home or something like that. When people do this, do they self-actualize? I don't know if that's the right word, but and find out like, oh, you know what, to get there, I'm going to give up, cigarettes on the weekend, or I'm going to eat out less. Do they do that?
It's so much easier to do it that way versus starting by where am I going to make the cuts? So, because if you have already decided what matters most to you, it's the thing you're most passionate about. And hey, maybe that's, smoking cigarettes. I mean, it's your goal. Whatever it is you're going to set for yourself, and you've allocated those funds towards it, psychologically, it's a lot easier to then look at the rest of the stuff and figure out how you want to allocate it, because you're taking care of business. And what's so interesting is this is an incredible technique to reduce your financial stress, because financial stress quite often is when your behaviors are out of line with your values. So you're in misalignment. This is why you're stressed. People are stressed because, oh, I'm juggling with this, but what I really want to do is be saving for that, and I'm not saving for that. That makes you feel bad. It's a terrible feeling. You're out of integrity with yourself. And so it actually lowers stress.
That makes a lot of sense. And I heard what you said too, Aaron, and I've never really thought of it that way. It's almost like you're self-budgeting, because what you're doing is you're saying, I need this boat so bad.
Right.
And I'm not seeming to put aside money, so I better look at my money, see where it's going now, so I can put it toward the boat. So you're kind of doing it backwards. You're establishing the goal, and then you're creating your own budget because you want to, because you're trying to find money to buy the boat.
Right. Yeah. Rather than somebody else telling you, what you need to do, you're going, oh, this is what I need to do, and it reverberates in your own head, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Brad, go ahead.
I was just
Miranda.
going to say, one of the things that I find helps me, and kind of along with what Brad was saying, is that I like to periodically go through, review my spending, and list the regular things that I'm spending money on, look at those things, and then go through and say like, okay, let's prioritize. And, it makes it easier to, like what Brad was saying, the stuff at the bottom of the list, I can knock that off. Like, I don't need that. Like, that's ridiculous. And then the other thing, and I've talked about this before, is I have the 4 questions I ask myself before I put money to something, right? The first question I ask myself is, do I need it? Right? Food, clothing, the rent.
Wine.
The second question.
Wine.
So, the second question I ask, because if the answer is no to the need, then I have to go to the next question. The next question I ask myself is, does it help me achieve my goals? Does it help me work toward what I value, what I prioritize? Is it helping me reach this? The third thing I ask myself, so if the answer is no, then the third thing I ask myself is it helping somebody else? Like I donate a lot to charity. Back in the day when we were growing up, it was like my son's fencing lessons. So like, is it helping somebody else? Is it going to the good in the world or these other things? And then finally, the fourth thing I ask myself is it enriching my life? Because, for me, like, do I need symphony tickets? No. Is it really helping somebody else? No. Is it helping me reach my retirement goal? No, but it's enriching my life. And so I like the symphony tickets. And if I can't answer yes to one of those four questions, then I'm done and I don't spend the money. I don't allocate the money to the thing because I really have to be able to say, okay, take a step back, think about this. And is the money I spend really doing what I want it to do for my life?
My questions are, is my wife going to allow me to have this? Is my wife going to think it's expensive? Is my wife going to allow me to, get into my checking account?
You know what? I actually wonder if Aaron's wife is going to let me do stuff. I mean,
we all need a wife like yours, Aaron.
Don't we all have one? Anyway,
no, thank God.
May I recap? Because what I want to do is I want to make sure people leave this podcast with specific steps they can take. Okay, so let's recap where we are now. We've got we're visualizing something in intricate detail, right? And something we're passionate about, and then we're going to automatically fund that. Am I saying this right, Brad? You recap for me. Where are we now?
Yeah, that's it. It's identifying those goals, getting really specific, a clear picture, getting really excited about it. I love Miranda's questions. If it doesn't fit any of those, kick it out, find another one. This has to be something that really matters to you because you're asking your brain to override its natural impulses. So this has to be something you have to be really excited about. And then automate. This is the key. This is the process that makes you a millionaire. This is the process that gets you every single financial goal you ever want is automating. Because if you rely on your motivation or your memory every month to sit down and write checks, you will fail. And like I said, the people who run the gyms know this. Because for you to go cancel your gym membership, think about the mental gymnastics you have to go through. You're going to have to tell yourself, oh, I guess health isn't important to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess, I don't need a good body. I mean, no, you're going to talk yourself out of it. You're going to be like, no, I need to do this. And the same thing happens when it comes to your financial goals. So use that. It harnesses the status quo bias. We're all naturally lazy. We don't want to deal with things. So use that to your benefit to achieve those goals.
So what I'm hearing you say then, Brad, is that we should go in together on a gym. Because it sounds like a great idea. This is my new goal. I want to harness all these fools to pay me every month. I like that idea.
Well, it works on me.
So okay, so is this our whole system? Is it what else do we need to do?
I think that there are other more tips that we've talked about really help too. The one thing I will mention is budgeting isn't fun. But thankfully, they have, account aggregation technology now, so you can just stick in your accounts. I think it's always useful to do that and then look at where your money's going. We used to ask people to track their spending and write down every expenditure, but studies show that makes you more depressed. And so people don't want to do it,
Yeah.
So using that technology to help, because you will find stuff on there and you'll slap your head and you'll be like, how long have I been paying for this thing?
Yep.
This website subscription, whatever it is. Oh my goodness, I never use it. So that is a useful exercise. I think it's much more fun to start with what it is, why we're saving and investing. Why are we working to begin with? Why are we doing this?
Actually,
it's because we're doing it.
Go ahead, Aaron.
No, I was going to say, you're absolutely right. But I think to add to that, once you start practicing these things, because it's psychologically tough because if you go to the gym, I've been there, you have to physically go down there to cancel it. And you have to talk to somebody.
Really?
And you have to, and they try to talk you back into why you want to do that. And then you got to, get out of it. Oh, there's a contract, blah, blah, blah. But once you start practicing these things, it becomes easier, and you'll find subscriptions on a whatever you name an app or name a website or whatever. The cancellation is hidden. Those menus are hidden.
Right,
they don't make it easy. But once you start doing it, you go, oh, look, I got a 2 months to HBO Max or whatever, and it's $2. Great. Then you put it on your calendar to cancel it, and you actually cancel it because you get used to doing this. And
That makes sense.
So It takes practice.
We're almost out of time, but I have one more question, and I don't know if you hear this very often, Brad. I don't have any goals. I really don't. I mean, it's not that I don't have goals. I have goals. I run my business. I have a great time, but I don't have. I mean, I basically have all the material possessions that I want, because even though I look like a young Brad Pitt, I'm actually an old guy who's been around for a long time and buys pretty much anything he wants to buy. I can remember, being 30 and being really excited about material possessions, and fame and fortune. But now it's like, I'm okay. And I don't mean to say that my life is perfect. If you said to me, Stacy, let's make a really passionate goal for you today, I don't know what the hell I'd say. Do you encounter that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, when it comes to like New Year's resolutions, goals, that kind of thing, I'm a huge fan of multiple categories. So like for me, financial goals is one category. Connection with others is another category. Self-care is another one. My spiritual pursuits is another one. I mean, so I'd look at, and I think it's great. It's sort of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you remember that from psychology. But basically, we're all worried about survival and safety until we get it. And then we kind of move up to, okay, now I'm going to focus on relationships and building a household, all the way up to trying to figure out the meaning of life. If you really want to get depressed, sit around and think about that for a while. But try to explore, now that I do have resources, what's the point of this? What sort of legacy do I want to leave?
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
It's a big shift, and it happens, it's starting to happen to me. Although I look like a very young man myself.
You do. You look like my twin. Like, we both look like Brad Pitt in his 30s.
I think so.
Then there's my goal, to look like Brad Pitt in his 30s.
And you achieved it.
My wife would be very, very happy if I accomplished that goal. So anyway, by the way, if you do want to know the meaning of life, we're almost out of time, but here it is. It's to make me laugh. That is the meaning of life. Okay, guys, I'm afraid we are out of time, but you know what? We're never out of a topic. Dig deeper. You're going to find links to lots more info in our show notes. And remember, if your goal is to make more, to spend less, to retire rich, or to accomplish your goals, your online home is moneytalksnews.com. And don't forget to check out Miranda's online home as well. That is Miranda Marquit, Marquit.com. And of course, you want to see Brad, don't you? Go to his website. It's bradklontz.com. That's Brad, KLONTZ.com. If you got a question, comment, or topic you'd like to suggest to us, tell us. Email us at hello@moneytalksnews.com. And one final thing you already heard me say once, I'm going to say it again. If you like what we do something for us. Subscribe to our podcast. Doesn't take you very long. Really helps us, though. So if you like us, show us and subscribe. I'm Stacy Johnson.
I'm Miranda Marquit.
I'm Aaron Freeman.
This is where you're supposed to say your name, Brad. I was supposed to tell you that.
Oh, hey, I'm Dr. Brad Klontz.
Awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us, folks. We're going to see you right here next time.